This is technically a transfer show. The transfer window has closed. We've actually had a full-on match day and an international break in between, but we kind of wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the transfer window. Not really an overview, but kind of like select winners and losers of this transfer window. And a little bit of a prelude. We both picked a winner and a loser, and I want to point out right away that neither one of us included any of the top four sides, Stefan, which I actually think is quite interesting, both in the winners and losers category. So that is actually interesting that neither one of us thought that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just kind of got a bit bored of talking about the same old clubs, but we obviously spent a huge amount of the summer talking about Bayern's struggles in transfer window and Dortmund maybe being a bit over the top, or maybe not over the top, but being very proactive in transfer window, Leverkusen too. And I don't know, I just felt when I was looking through the teams and what in the business they've done, it felt like a good opportunity to kind of shine a light on the smaller clubs. And, obviously we'd be doing transfer show after transfer show after transfer show, but it did kind of dawn on me that since I went away right after the window shut, and then we went straight to the international break, we actually haven't had an opportunity to maybe take a moment to appreciate some of the business that's been done elsewhere in the league. So yeah, this show should hopefully do exactly that.
Yeah, and of course, as always, once we've gone through it, feel free to agree or disagree with us. We got mostly positive feedback from our national team breakdown. Lots of people agreeing with what we said, so that's a first. Maybe this one will be a little bit more controversial. We'll see. But yeah, I also wanted to point out when we do talk about the losers, it's more of not really a loser of the transfer window. It's more of a critical, we're not quite sure was enough kind of overview, isn't it? Right? Loser is such a hard term. It is a great headline. So we're going to definitely use it. But I think in both cases, the teams that we picked were teams where we're just not quite sure that's enough. And on that note, Stefan, I let you go first. What was the team that you looked at and said, I would have liked to see a little bit more here?
Yeah, so the team that I've ended up picking up on, and I got to say most of the clubs in the Bundesliga did do quite well, and as you said, this isn't really us saying these clubs did bad. It's just maybe I wanted more from them, and I think this club are a perfect example of that, and that is Werder Bremen. After last season, it would have been good to see Bremen really kind of push on, and kind of cement their place in the mid-table team, but with one eye obviously on reclaiming what I think is the rightful place in German football as one of the kind of big teams in the Bundesliga. Maybe not quite, Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund, but I would definitely put them on a level with a Stuttgart, Frankfurt, Haasfeld if they were in the division. These kind of clubs who have big followings, they have big stadiums, they have big history in the Bundesliga, and it just felt to me like Bremen didn't really do a huge amount. They've spent about 6.8 million euros. Some decent players in there, maybe. I think, for example, Marco Gruhl from Rapid Vienna is a player who scored a lot of goals in Austria as an interesting winger, so maybe he could do something. Equally, Kiki Top is a young Schalke striker who picked up a decent amount of goals maybe in the Zweite Bundesliga last season. So they've done okay, but nothing groundbreaking. And I think perhaps more importantly is that you kind of look around them at the teams around them in that mid-table. A lot of clubs have actually been very proactive this summer in the money they've spent. And I just feel like Bremen might get left behind there. I know they did okay last season. I know they've obviously got a decent head coach who knows what he's doing, and maybe there's a case of them just thinking, well, us staying still is a case of us moving forward because we're sticking with the same core group of players. But I just think they didn't do enough there. And I think the other thing that we have to really bear in mind there is also the departure of Eren Dinkçi, who was the young winger who was on loan at Heidenheim last season. So for anyone who doesn't know, he was on loan at Heidenheim. He came through the Werder Bremen youth teams. Really, really well regarded youth player at Bremen. For example, in the under 19s team, he picked up 22 goals and 12 assists in 20 games a couple of seasons ago. So a player, really highly regarded, Turkish international, but Werder Bremen born and raised. In fact, I'm not sure if he's declared for Turkey yet. I think he has, but he's played for both. He's played for both Germany and Turkey at youth level, so that's maybe something we can check up on.
Recently called up by Turkey.
Yeah,
but
well, there
didn't
we go
play.
then. Well, I guess it could still potentially change his mind. In the 22-23 season, he was just kind of a substitute, play much. He then went out on loan to Heidenheim last year, and he was really impressive. 10 goals and 5 assists in 33 league games in the Bundesliga. Undoubtedly one of their best players. And in the midst of all that, Freiburg come along and say, oh, look, he's got a €5 million release clause. We'll have that. And he's moved on loan to Freiburg. He moved on permanently to Freiburg. And just to kind of put it into context, his market value transfer market is €12 million. And I know, I'm not saying that you have to take the market values verbatim and that's how much these players should go for, but it's a good indicator of the quality of what he should be, because we've got some very good market value moderators in this Bundesliga, as you would expect, since transfer market's a German company, so we've got a lot of people who watch him, and he's very highly regarded there with that market value. So I feel like letting him leave for such a small fee, but even letting him leave at all, is a huge error. And at the time when he joined the club, he basically more or less said, he's like, well, I'm moving to Freiburg, and his whole statement basically was him saying, well, Freiburg approached me, and they made me feel wanted. They made me say that I'd be part of the project, and it's as simple as that. And I think it's just something that I think Werder Bremen are going to seriously regret in the years to come, if not already. And when you put that in with some okay signings, but not exactly anyone that's really going to get Bremen fans terribly excited, it just feels to me like there's a net negative transfer window for them.